Now, all revved up for more red-hot motorsport, it's the LG Super Racing Weekend with
Yokohama, power of performance.
Hello, welcome to Oschersleben, round 6 of the FIA GT Championship, and the series returns to the circuit in eastern Germany, where it was the first international championship to grace Oschersleben. The motor park is situated outside the city of Magdeburg, about 2 hours southwest of the capital of Germany, Berlin. And it's a tight, twisty and very demanding track. We've seen the touring cars in great form here, but for the big GT cars, it really will be trying to harness their power around the tight confines of this mainly third and fourth gear track. 2 straights, but neither of them particularly long, will make getting through the slower traffic a little bit hard work for the GT drivers as well. 3.6 kilometers, Motor Park Oschersleben, and all of it is hard going for the bigger cars. Well, let's catch up with Italian Andrea Piccini, find out his thoughts on the race. Car's very good, even with the penalty weights, he said. This morning in the morning warm-up, we were very quick. We were fastest of all. Yesterday, we were quick in qualifying, and I think we have a chance to beat the Lister. Well, it's the Lister that starts on pole position. Jamie Campbell-Walter.
Yeah, for sure. You know, it'll help the brakes, the acceleration, and the tyre wear and the brake wear. So it's quite important. But I don't think you'll notice any difference at the beginning of the race. It's probably in the last hour of the race that we will start to reap the reward from not having any weight. So, you know, we play a patient game. We obviously try to lead from pole and hand the car over to Nick for the second stint in the lead. But obviously it's quite difficult here. But hopefully if you get into the first corner first, it's quite easy to lead, because it's very hard to overtake around here, so because it's so tight and twisty. So I'm looking, obviously the start is very important, and as soon as I'm on pole I can dictate the pace. So, you know, we look forward to a good race, and hopefully we win the race.
Well, Jamie starts on pole with Nicholas Springer in the Lister Storm, but he was only 9th fastest in the morning warm-up. So away they go with the Lister and the Ferrari on the front row of the grid. Then the Car Sport Holland number 4 car and the number 2 car from the Labra competition team, ahead of their more fancied teammates. The number 3 Car Sport Hart car and the number 1 Labra car are 5th and 6th. Then the 2 Belmondo cars on row 4 of the grid. Row 5 of the grid, the David Halliday Philippe Alliot Ferrari, and the NGT pole sitter, the Freisinger Motorsport car of Stefano Telli, sharing this weekend with Sascha Massen, the man who won in the Porsche in 1999 when the FIA GT came here. So Bovinian duos there on row 4 with their teammates, Belmondo and Gosselin. And Claude-Yves Gosselin involved in a spate of fisticuffs with Christian Ried, who's sharing the number 16 at Proton competition Porsche with his father Gerald. And after an on-track excursion, which was decided as a racing incident, it then turned into a handbags at dawn scenario in first one and then the other team garage, for which they were slapped on the wrists and fined 500, was it pounds or euros each? US dollars, of course, the universal currency. Well, there you are. You can see the Proton Porsche down in 24th place. They were actually bumped to the back of the grid as well. Not a legacy of the slapping match, but more a legacy of on-track activities. So they will start right at the very back. On board with Luca Capillari and Fabrizio Golin's car. You can see them chugging away in first gear as they come around the final couple of corners, and ready to take the start. And the Lister Storm on pole with a tough battle on its hands with the Ferrari and 6 Vipers right behind it. Only one of the BMS Scuderia Italia Ferraris here, by the way, because the other car has only got 2 drivers, normally has 3. But Frederick Dorr and Lilian Brinner are here. Enzo Calderari damaged himself during an accident in the week, nothing to do with racing, and can't race. So for some reason, with only 2 drivers, they've decided not to start the car. However, the 23 car of Andrea Piccini bundled down the order on the outside line, and Jamie Davis, although Jamie Campbell-Walter's got the lead, his fellow front row starter Piccini shoved out of the way there in those tight first couple of corners, but I guess it's important just to make sure the car stays in one piece in this opening lap.
Well, yeah, he certainly succeeded. The car's definitely in one piece now, but as we saw from the touring car race earlier on, it's just definitely not the place to be on the outside into that first left part of the corner, because you just get squeezed out. It's then very difficult to brake for the right-hand part of the corner, and you end up just losing places. So I think that's what's happened to them. But at least they've got no damage on the car, so they'll be able to push on now and hopefully be able to get back through the Vipers, because they've definitely got the pace.
Well, they have got the pace, no question about it, and in their starting driver particularly, they've got a very quick young man in Andrea Piccini. John Denny Delatraus, the Swiss, is no slouch either. On board there with one of the Belmondo Vipers. You can see them with the Ferrari between them now. The Force One Racing Ferrari. David Hallyday, the son of France's answer to Cliff Richard, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones and everything else. Johnny Hallyday, he is the France's biggest ever pop star. His son, also a musician, but enjoys his race driving as well. That car missed the last race in Sweden because they had gearbox troubles and transmission troubles they were trying to sort out, and they thought that a bit of a 4 or 5 week gap would help them. It seems to have done. They're going at the moment. Also had some engine work from Ferrari's brand new customer development operation, which is for the first time ever taken an interest in the 550 Maranello. Further back you can see Bobby Verdenroe in 11th place in the second Lister Storm. They've had all sorts of dramas with that car. They thought they'd blown an engine in the first day of practice. It turns out after they changed the engine, in fact one of the oil lines had collapsed internally. These are normally rubber hoses with metal braiding around the outside to sort of safeguard them. It seems like the internals of it had sort of collapsed on itself, and they eventually found that that was the problem, and the car has only run so far in qualifying. Verdenroe doing a few laps, and then Paul Natfield getting himself into the race as well. So they are the last of the GT cars at the moment, ahead of the Porsche, on board with Fabio Bobini. And Bobini, the better placed of the two Belmondo cars. But at the moment, Jamie Campbell-Walter doing exactly what you would have done if you're on pole, Jamie, which is clear off and head for the hills as fast as you possibly can.
He's certainly looking that way at the moment. Just looking at the lap times there, he's edging out. He's actually going over a second a lap quicker than the Viper behind. So that's good for him at the moment. If he can keep at that pace and try and make a gap for the pit stops, then that's looking good shape for him.
Well, right behind him, the two Car Sport Holland cars. Number 4 being started by Fabrizio Golin, and Mike Hazelman's behind him in car 3. Well, that was the way they were at the previous lap, but now car 3 is up into second spot. And I was going to suggest, actually, that the way the second Car Sport car was nosing around the back of the first one, that Hazelman's was still desperate to get by. But in fact, it looks as though Golin has got the quicker of the two cars at the moment. Van Sant Vos in 4th place, still ahead of his more fancied teammate, at least by himself, Christophe Bouchou, in the second Labra car. There they are, the white cars with the red and black stripes. And between them, still the Ferrari. So Piccini's moment of caution, perhaps, will take some while to undo. Piccini in the 23 car, well, he's lapping in the 126s, but Jamie Campbell-Walter in the mid to low 125s. Piccini losing ground all the time. Don't forget the Ferrari coming off 3 straight wins at the moment, so if they can manage to nail another one in, that will really boost their championship chances. But at the moment, stuck in the middle of the Viper pack. It's almost like the Alphas and the BMWs in the touring cars.
Yeah, he's certainly all over the Viper of Vincent Vos at the moment, though. So I think maybe we might be looking at a move soon coming up from the Ferrari. He's definitely harassing and trying to look for a place to go through.
Well, you saw the onboard shots for the moment there from the Pirelli-shod Vipers. There the Ferrari does go through. And that favoured passing place off the back straight into the left-right that we saw so many of the touring car drivers using seems to work as well for the big GT cars. And again, the Pirelli tyres on the Car Sport Holland cars. Of course, we've got Dunlop tyres on the pole-sitting Lister Storm. And the Vipers behind, well, the Labra Vipers have got Michelin tyres, Pirelli tyres on the Ferraris. So not only a mark battle going on here between the various different cars, but also, of course, a tyre war as well. And all the manufacturers very keenly supporting their favoured teams. I'm quite sure what the little box in the middle of the picture is that looks like a taxi cab meter there. That's obviously some part of the, maybe it's the radio, the ship-to-shore radio. Very bizarre positioning for it there. In the pits, we have got the 66 Porsche. This is the Mack racing car of Moreno Soli and Fabio Venier. Looks like Venier has picked up a puncture on the right rear at some stage. No damage to the car, though. No, they're doing the left rear as well. I wonder if they're just changing it. Well, 133 laps to go, says the board. And, of course, 3-hour maximum cut-off. Well, if it doesn't rain here at Oschersleben, they should just about get the distance in. We were down to 3 hours at, in Sweden at Anderstorp because we had several safety car situations with driving rain, but there shouldn't be that much of a problem here at Oschersleben. So Jamie Campbell-Walter leading, and comfortably so, still reeling off the laps at a decent rate, and some 6 seconds quicker than he managed in the morning warm-up. Mike Hazeman's in second spot in the Carsport Holland Viper, car number 3, and his teammate in third place is the number 4 car, Luca Capillari and Fabrizio Golin. Golin driving that, and Jamie, the Ferrari is moving up the order because he's now catching the number 4 car very quickly indeed. Just 2 laps ago, he was behind the Labra Viper, which is now some way adrift.
Yeah, it's certainly looking good. The balance on the car is looking quite nice at the moment. They're just able to be able to push very hard, just carry that speed through the corners. They're certainly going to give the Lister a run for the money, I think, this weekend.
One strong suit that you have to say, as well as speed in terms of the Viper, is it has got very good reliability, bearing in mind that the car in race terms is barely a year old. But then with a car that's built by ProDrive, you kind of tend to expect that it'll at least see the checkered flag, don't you? As well as being pretty quick. And although ProDrive are not running the cars here, they're being run by the BMS Scuderia Italia team, who of course raced the Dallara Formula 1 car in the mid-90s. Among their other achievements, very much a single-seater based team. They've been racing in the World Sports Car Championship with open prototype Ferrari 333 SPs, and now coming here, and you could see there through the left-hander just how hard Piccini was pushing, as the front end was having a little bit of a sway on him, and not entirely happy about turning in at the pace that he wanted it to, but he made it anyway. 12 car here, of course, the winners at Silverstone were Mark Duez and Fabio Babini, and still the better of the 2 Belmondo Racing Vipers. In fact, Paul Belmondo's car, the number 11 car that he shares with Claude-Yves Gosselin, dropped right back off the GT pace here, and having its own little battle with the Force 1 Ferrari of Philippe Alliot and David Halliday. These Vipers, Ferraris rather, now racing not only in the FIA GT Series but also in the American Le Mans Series. And the latest race from Road America, featuring a second team running the 550 Maranellos. Of course, Gabriele Raffanelli, who originally ran these cars 2 years ago in the FIA Series, is running them in the American Le Mans Series, as we watch Bobby Verden-Rowe piling on the pressure on the 11 Belmondo car. This is the bottom end of the top 10.
I think that actually is Jamie, actually. It's possibly a back marker. It's just about to put a lap on him.
You might be right, actually, because the Belmondo car has dropped right off the pace. And if that was 14, then that is, see now, I didn't even look at the number. I was just assuming that that would be the battle between Bobby and Paul Belmondo.
That was Jamie. That was Jamie, yeah.
So it looks as though Belmondo, it is the 14 car, looks as though Belmondo has gone off at some stage, or maybe made a pit visit. But we didn't pick up on our cameras, so we'll have to have a quick look there. Yes, he's got a lap down, no question about it. So on board again with the Carsport Holland cars, running at their own pace, the 2 of them, and a little bit adrift of the lead pace of Jamie Campbell-Walter. In fact, everybody else is a little bit adrift of the lead pace of Jamie Campbell-Walter. He's now got a handy advantage of getting on for 5 seconds. Verden-Rowe in 8th place, so ahead of Alliot's Ferrari, and in fact chasing Babini in the other Carsport Holland, in the other Belmondo Viper. So there is a Belmondo Viper Lister battle going on, but it's not the one that we were being shown.
That's exactly what Jamie needs, though. He just needs now to just keep edging out that lead, just keep putting in the quick laps, especially now he's got a back marker between him and I think it's Hesman's Viper. Then you know, he's looking in good shape. He's still lapping consistently quicker. So basically, they've just got to keep that up, and he's definitely looking in good shape for the first pit stops.
Certainly is. Of course, the way that they normally run the race is that they will keep Jamie out as long as they can on the fuel, and then Nicholas will do the minimum requirement in the car before handing it back to Jamie to try and take over and go back out and win the race. And I would think that there's not likely to be a weather factor playing much of a changing role to that either. The Lister very good on its fuel management. It seems to be able to go at least as far as anybody else, and Lawrence Pierce often likes to try and keep the car out one extra lap after all of their other rivals have come in, if he possibly can, just to kind of rub in that little advantage. Well, the gap coming down to Haseman's now, 3.6, so clearly Mike Haseman's got past the Belmondo car a little more efficiently than Jamie Campbell-Walter, but behind him Golin is struggling to find the right place on the track to get past. And of course, although the Viper is going a lap down, it's not because it's dog slow. It's pretty much as quick as most of the other Vipers. And well, what sort of lap times is he doing? He's doing 1:30, so he's not an awful lot slower, maybe only a second a lap slower than Golin, and that does make him very hard to pass, even though he's off the lead lap. At the moment, though, 8 laps in, Jamie Campbell-Walter leads for Lister. The Vipers and the Ferraris giving chase. Round 6 of the FIA GT Championship at Oschersleben, part of the LG Super Racing weekend. And here is our NGT leader, Stefan Ortelli, sharing the Freisinger Motorsport Porsche with Sascha Maassen, and really under pressure. Well, they didn't seem to be anywhere last time out in Sweden, but the Ferraris are right back, and it's been a long while since we've seen Ortelli pressured this closely by one of the 360 Modeners at the beginning of a race. And they're both there in number order. Andrea Bertolini and Andrea Montermini in the 50 car, and there's the 53 car, and in fact that is second, that's third in the class. The 50 car is way down the order, and Montermini and Christian Pescatori, there's Pescatori, last year's champion. Andrea Montermini in the 50 car, nowhere near the front of the field, and that's a big surprise, because these two are their star driver lineup, Jamie.
Yeah, it's very strange this weekend. I'm not quite sure what's happening there. There's a possibility that in qualifying, I think it may have had a slight shower when they were... Oh, big lock-up there by the Freisinger Porsche. It's possible that it was a slight shower in qualifying, so I think that put the Montemini and Pescatori car back. But they don't seem to be doing the lap times in the race either, so I'm not sure whether they've got a problem or whether they just don't have a very good setup on the car.
They are just plain struggling, way out of the top half dozen. The other 3 Ferraris are in the top half dozen, including the 2 older cars, the 53 and 54 cars, 52 and 53 cars rather, which are the 2001 spec cars, which don't have quite the top-end horsepower that the 2002 cars do. And there you can see the 53 machine, which is one of those older cars. That's Peter Kuterman, Battiano Pregliasco and Iraj Alexander in that machine, and that is their best showing so far this season in terms of competition. Well, Ortelli, you know, he is in danger of being passed here. Maybe it's the tight and twisty nature of the circuit that is really allowing the Ferrari to show off its chassis balance, because it is generally accepted by the Porsche drivers that the Ferrari does have much better balance. A nice 4-square slide out of the final corner there, showing just how hard he's charging.
Yeah, it's always difficult to know. For sure, the Ferrari having, for myself, obviously I've driven the 360 NGT car in the British GT Championship, so I have first-hand experience with the chassis. I know that our car is particularly good in the corners. The Porsche tends to have a little bit more torque, so they're able just to accelerate out of the corner a little bit quicker. But generally, at this type of track at the moment, they seem to be fairly evenly matched.
It'd be interesting actually to see somebody bring over a TVR Tuscana, because that's looking to be a very competitive car at the moment in the British GT Championship. The race at Silverstone, they were all over the Ferraris and the Porsches. Nobody really else getting a look in if you weren't in a Tuscan early on in the race. It'd be quite interesting to see how they matched up against some of these teams. I've said it before and I'll say it again, that I think an awful lot of the drivers and the teams from the British GT Championship would be pleasantly surprised by how well they would fare in this series. I think the level of preparation and driving ability in most of the cars in the British series is pretty much on a par with this, and it'd be great to see some of them coming out and racing against the FIA guys. So moving on then in the race, 15 laps in, Jamie Campbell-Walter leading comfortably, 9 seconds ahead of Mike Hasemans. Fabrizio Golin, his teammate, in third. Andrea Piccini fourth for the Ferrari team, and right behind Golin. And then, of course, we've got the two Labra Vipers. And Golin, well, this is about the widest his Viper has been for a very long while, with the Ferrari still clambering over the back of him, and with its little horsepower advantage notwithstanding, the Ferrari still unable to find a way past. It's caught Golin very quickly after getting through the Labra cars. But Jamie, as we saw in the Formula Renault race, as we saw in the touring cars, catching is one thing. On this track, it's sort of like the Hungaro ring for the F1 cars. It's a bit slow, a bit nadgery, and a bit hard to find a way through.
It's very difficult. Again, I mean, with the GT cars, it's probably a little bit more similar to the single-seater cars, because these cars have more aerodynamics on them. It's, as we see, there's a bit of contact there.
Oops, and that again, our favoured passing place off the back straight. And again, while Golin closing the door, trying to keep the Ferrari back. And my judgment of that would have been that I think Piccini did everything he could on the inside to avoid an incident, and Golin maybe didn't do everything he could have done. Let's have a look again. Piccini down the inside. Well, he wasn't level, but he was certainly coming.
Looks a little bit more like the Ricardo Rydell move, I think, in the European touring car. Similar kind of situation. The trouble is with this circuit, once you're on the inside, it's very, very difficult. The other car, if they turn in, they go off.
They do tend to. Carsport Holland car of Mike Hasemans now under pressure from the Ferrari. 22 laps in, and we've seen that the Ferrari has got the speed. Look at the drive he got there down into the chicane. Now, we've not seen anybody hook up that impressively. I wonder whether maybe Hasemans missed a gear. It didn't look like his car went backwards, just that Piccini got the drive of his life off that corner. Nobody has been able to squirt down that little straight into the chicane. No, Hasemans has got a problem. He's got a puncture. He's got a left rear puncture or something. He was leaving a big black stripe on the road there as he was weaving around, and it was definitely a problem because he's being passed by a 360 Moderna, and that doesn't happen in a straight line, with all due respect to the 360. So no wonder he got the hook up there. Now the car is in. Incidentally, the 11 Belmondo car did have a spin in the beginning of the race, came in and refueled after 4 laps, and so is on a strange strategy, and that will put this 3 car on a strange strategy as well. Anthony Kumpen getting in for the middle stint early, and well,
they're just trying to make this a bit more tactical now. They're going for their fuel stop and tyre change and driver change at this stage, obviously, because they had the tyre problem. Just make the most of it.
Yep. Well, he goes back out, Kumpen at the wheel. Oh. And now drama, 27 laps in, Stefan Ortelli. Well, the last time the GT Championship raced here, Ortelli was in a GT2 Porsche. He took it over in the lead of the race, and it broke by the pit lane. Now he's out, and it looks like he's got a broken wheel on the car. He had a mechanical problem with the left rear wheel. The rim was broken, he says. Early in the race was very difficult. Ferrari was quicker. They had a good setup here. I only got passed by 1 car, but mechanical problem. It's not a reliability problem with the car, really. It's just a broken wheel rim, and nothing you could do couldn't even get the car back in. So he said it's a shame, but never mind. Well, phlegmatic approach, and the NGT now being led Ferraris 1 and 2, Garcia's Porsche in 3rd. And 43 laps into the race, the first of the regular fuel stops. The number 15 Lister has just been in. Here is the 23 Ferrari. Piccini hands over to Delatraz, and this should really trigger a busy pit lane. The 12 Viper is in as well, and that will be Babini handing over to Mark Duez for the middle stint. New Pirellis all round. There goes Paul Natfield, who's incidentally only driven the car in drizzle in the 15-minute final qualifying run after the Superpole runs on Saturday. So this is really his time now to learn the track. Baptism of fire for him. And another neatly drilled Ferrari pit stop. Always seems to be so long, changing the tyres with the wheel hammers. And the Labra #1 car is in as well. They're going for a fresh set of Michelins. Now I wonder whether Jamie Campbell-Walter will take new tyres, or whether Nicholas Springer will take new tyres when he takes the car over. It looks like there's more of a problem than the #1 car as well. This is going to be a long stop. Now I wonder what their problem is. Christophe Bouchou, unhappy. Well, we've seen that he wasn't able to run even at the pace of the #2 car, Jamie. And I wonder whether they've got some kind of overheating problem or a fuel delivery problem or something that's just hindering them enough to take the edge. Bouchou carrying maximum weight, but that's not enough to explain it, I don't think. Let's catch up with Bouchou and see what he makes of it. Well, I had a good start, but 6 laps before the end of my stint, there's a problem with the engine. It's not running well at the moment. It's making a strange noise and we're losing power, so we're going to lose places. Said, yeah, we're definitely going to drop down the order. Dommage, he says. Well, that means that for the moment, Andrea Piccini said, I didn't really get a good start. He said there were 2 cars passed before I got to the line. Unfortunately, I was passed by Golin and 2 other Vipers went past. I pushed hard to try and get the gap back and managed to get past the #2 car and also to catch Golin. He was very quick in the straight line and it was hard to pass him. I'm sorry that we touched, but I was on the inside and I couldn't get out of the way. He closed the door, so even if I went on the grass I couldn't avoid contact, and he spun. He said, I'm sorry about that, but I did my best to get past cleanly. So, well, that's pretty much the way we saw it. Piccini's car in action with Delatraz at the helm, but the lead car is still the #14 Lister Storm. Jamie Campbell-Walter yet to stop. 47 laps into race 6 in the FIA GT Championship, and the leader is in the pits. Jamie Campbell-Walter helping Nicholas Springer strap in. Lawrence Pierce hand on hip at the front of the car there. And Jamie Campbell-Walter came in with a lap advantage over the second-placed Ferrari, the #23 car of Jean-Denis Delatraz. They had stopped 4 laps earlier, as most had in the pit lane. The Lister again eking out its fuel right down into the reserve, and it's new tyres going on, new Dunlops for Nicholas Springer. Well, Jamie Campbell-Walter coming in, lapping in the 1:28. But Nicholas Springer goes back out as the race leader in the #14 Lister Storm. In the pits is the #1 Labra Viper. This is 54 laps into the race. They stopped on lap 43 for a fuel stop, and at that stage they were worried about a power loss in the engine. They examined under the bonnet. Jamie Davis, looks like they're checking the management and the electronics as well. David Terrian saying we had problems at the end of Christophe. He had problems at the end of his stint. We tried to see what happened when the car was stopped. We didn't find anything, but it was still there. We'll try and finish the race, but it seems as though a transmission strap has come off. And oh right, so it's not the engine. He's saying that something that holds the rear axle in place is broken. They've dislocated the rear axle and they are out of the race. Well, the Lister Storm leading, car #14, driven by Nicholas Springer, but being reeled in hand over fist by Jean-Denis Delatraz. And Jamie, the Ferrari going considerably quicker now.
Yeah, the Ferrari's tucked right up there now, so he's all over the Lister now, so I think that he's going to be going through pretty quickly. This was his favourite spot earlier on, just up the inside into this corner. Let's see if he can pull it off on the Lister.
Well, Springer, the gentleman driver, 3 seconds a lap slower than the Ferrari. Through his stint, he's in the mid-131s, the Ferrari down in the 128s, and that makes it really no contest. And Springer, well, his mission in life, if you like, in the car is to bring it back in one piece and keep going at as consistent a pace as he can manage. You see the 2 Ferraris there, the Force 1 car sliding around out of the corner. The red car looking much more stable, though. Well, now 62 laps in. And this is the battle for second place. The number 12 car, Marc Duez, the blue and yellow car. This is Belmondo's best entry, and not going to line him up through the chicane there, surely. Nicholas Springer being chased by Paul Knapfield as well. Knapfield a lap down in the number 15 at Lister Storm. But the battle for second place, and Duez pulls out down the back straight, looking to go through, but there's slower cars in front, and, well, he out-fumbled himself very nicely there. In fact, he managed to get past the Ferrari and leave it in the way of the Lister, so great lapping, and he gets by the blue Ferrari as well. Marc Duez really flying through there in inspired form.
Certainly made full use of the traffic there. I mean, that was pretty good.
Into the pits, the number 3 Carsport Holland car. This is not a neat-looking pit stop. Door still open as they try and get it restarted. We're 67 laps into the race, and it looks as though Anthony Kumpen has been off. They've cleared out the radiator. The car maybe a little over hot, trying hard to restart under its own power. You see Twan Hazemans there, former European Touring Car champion, in the red top, and the team manager Antoine saying, come on, let's get the battery in, get the engine fired, but then they've got to let it restart under its own power. This is big drama for the Carsport Holland team. Second pit stop for the number 14 at Lister Storm, 74 laps into the race, and the total race distance due to be 137 laps. Nicholas Springer out of the car. There is the lanky Swiss frame of Springer. And Jamie Campbell-Walter being strapped in. Nicholas trying to get the plug for the drinks bottle sorted out in between the straps for the belts and the arms. And no tyres this time. Jamie will take over. Oh no, there are tyres going on. Left-hand sides only, I think, perhaps, though. They're going for the asymmetric setup. And away goes Campbell-Walter with 2 new Dunlops on the car to take him through to the end of the race and hopefully to get his lead back. Well, lap 79, one of the Labra cars still remains in the race. It's car number 2. Van Sant Vos taking over again from Carl Rosenblad, who did the middle stint. And it's a fact of life that you lose a lap here every time you stop in the pits to your rivals. Jamie, we're working out it costs you about 3 minutes every time you come in for a full fuel stop. And this looks like our race leader is in as well. 23 Ferrari is in. Out goes the Belmondo car in front of him. Now, whether that means he will get a chance to get his lap back, or whether, in fact, he's taken the lead there. They were not that far apart. And I think that means that the Belmondo car is leading the race. They won at Silverstone. Could this be win number 2 of the season for Duez and Babini? The Ferrari comes out behind them, and they were on the same lap earlier on. And I think that the Ferrari may well have taken on new tyres. Certainly it was a longer stop. Duez and Babini now lead. 94 laps into the race. And here is the battle for the lead. The 23 Ferrari chasing the number 12 car. And the Viper is leading the race, but not for much longer, I don't think. Andrea Piccini in the Ferrari did the opening stint, worked his way up from a start where he got bundled down the order, let's say. Not the greatest start by Piccini. All over the back of Fabio Babini now. His compatriot won't want to let him through.
Can he get a good drive out of this corner and then take his favourite spot again at the inside?
Well, he's certainly got traction to spare, hasn't he? He's right behind, and he's not giving any intention of telegraphing the move early.
He's there. Good move.
That was well put to bed. And the BMS Scuderia Italia team looking very happy with that. Back in the lead of this race.
It's quite interesting. I've been looking at the lap times, and Jamie Campbell-Walter's Lister, he's been putting in some quick lap times, actually. He's running now into the high 27s, 1 minute 27, so he's gradually closing the gap.
Well, he may have older tyres on, but as the fuel load comes down, he's getting quicker and closing in on the leaders. And here is confirmation of that. Jamie Campbell-Walter flashing his headlights at Fabio Babini. The Lister Storm, well, it's another of those third element of the race drives where Campbell Walter has to try and chase down the leaders. You can see the Ferrari is at the end of the pit straight as Jamie Campbell Walter comes across the line in third place, battling here with Babini. So it is all up for grabs. Lap 94 of 137 full late race distance, but contact there with the Viper may cause a bit of damage to the back of the Lister, probably more damaging to the front of the Viper. And this is Babini trying at the last moment to actually get the car into the corner because he left it a bit late to turn in. So Campbell Walter in second place, the Ferrari in sight even on the short straights here at Oschersleben. The battle to the flag is on. Lister versus Ferrari. Back at Oschersleben, 105 laps into round 6 of the FIA GT Championship. We're looking here at the new NGT leader. It's the Auto Orlando Porsche, and they're one of the Ferraris in trouble. Yeah, but which one? There are 4 to choose from, and it's hard to tell which is which. It's the 51 car. Now, that was the best placed of the NGT Ferraris. The Andrea Gabagnati and Andrea Bertolini car going very slowly there, but it's Philipp Peter and Toto Wolff's Auto Orlando Porsche, which is leading the category. They come up behind the second of the Freisinger Motorsport Porsches, and Philipp Peter, the Austrian, as is Toto Wolff, of course, leading the NGT category at the moment. Excellent stuff from them. So Philipp Peter with Horst Felbermayr Jr. in the 76 car. That car he's sharing with Antonio Garcia. That's the first of the RWS Motorsport cars. And Horst Felbermayr Jr. normally races with his dad in the GT cars, in the GT2 Porsche that they own, but joining Antonio Garcia. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with the way that Felbermayr Jr. is going. Not normally noted for a particular turn of speed, but certainly keeping his end up well enough here in this car, second in the NGT class in his first drive in it. And you see Jamie Campbell Walter, Bobby Verden-Rowe, the other hyphenated Lister driver, working his way through the traffic. The Freisinger Motorsport car, incidentally, Stefan Dowdy and Bert Longin. The 55 car some way down in the order. In fact, they are a lap behind the battle for NGT honours, down in 10th spot in their class. Of course, Stefan Ortelli, who has won the last 4 races in the NGT category, unable to complete this one, out after just 25 laps, which gives the Ferraris a chance to fight back. But Jamie, looks like at the moment, still, Porsche is the dominant car in the category, despite the fact that the Ferraris looked so strong early on when they were chasing Stefan Ortelli.
Yeah, it just seems certain situations, I think, which happened in this race, but for sure the Porsche has had a good run this weekend. They're looking very, very strong at the moment. They've certainly put one over on Ferrari this weekend, I think.
You can see enormous amount of black little balls of rubber around the slower corners. Offline is really, really filthy. You can see them all there again, great big lumps of rubber. When you can see them that clearly, they really are, you know, half the size of your fist. And that means that passing traffic is a real nightmare. It almost looks in the background as if there's, you know, big sort of black lumps all over the place. And that's exactly what it feels like, I'm sure, when you run over them. Again, you see the Lister there throwing one off. Basically, as the tyre wears, all the bits of rubber coagulate in the wheel arches and the wheel rims and everything else, and they sort of bounce off in lumps. But that does mean that lapping slower cars around corners is going to be very tricky indeed. You can see the gap now between Jamie Campbell Walter in the Lister. Oops! As we see with some of the NGT back markers getting into trouble. That's the Jürgen von Gartzen and Ian Kahn car, trying to get past the Russians, Fomenko and Vasiliev, and also being lapped by Jamie Campbell Walter in second place. Now, nothing between Jamie and the Ferrari, but Jamie has caught a lot of traffic, and the gap, it keeps coming out again from 4 seconds back to nearly 5 at the end of the last lap.
Yeah, as you'll see, it's very, very difficult to overtake getting through the traffic. Like you said just a minute ago, with the amount of marble off the line, you'll find that the tail enders, they don't really want to move offline themselves, because you get a big pickup onto the tyre then, and it'll probably take maybe 1, possibly even 2 laps to clean that tyre back off again, and in that time they'll have very limited grip coming from the car, and not a very nice feeling, can cause vibrations as well and different things. So you'll find that a lot of the cars don't really want to move offline through the corners, so most of the quicker cars will try and get through on the straights.
Well, we've seen some great last gasp battles in the FIA GT Championship in recent years, and last season particularly Jamie Campbell-Walter coming from behind on the final lap at Zolder to pass the Car Sport Holland car of Christophe Bouchou in the final corner. There's a little bit of contact down the inside as Jamie made his last lunge, got to the checkered flag first. The Lister then disqualified for a broken airbox, which was in fact causing the car to run lean, but again, it looks like we've got a last lap charge, or last few minutes charge. 22 laps to go of race distance, but we are going to run out of time before we run out of laps. We are not going to make it to the full 137 distance, and that is absolutely guaranteed. We are in the closing stages now, and Jamie Campbell-Walter knows that time is probably against him. But he is closing 2.5 seconds back at the end of the previous lap, and now 2.8, and he's catching traffic. But every time, of course, the leader catches traffic, Jamie knows that he will have to catch it in another lap or so, and there doesn't seem to be an awful lot between them. What are the lap times telling you?
Yeah, it's looking fairly close at the moment, actually, just depending on which cars are in traffic. They're normally running, it's basically if the Ferrari catches the traffic, then they're losing maybe 1-2 seconds a lap, and in the Lister closes, but then it's vice versa, as you said, once the Lister closes up on the traffic itself.
They're down in the 28s, the quickest cars on the track by some margin. Nobody else going as quickly as that in the closing stages. Most of the other positions are sealed. But, well, this is how Jamie Campbell-Walter has always gone sports car racing. It always seemed to be in the British GT Championship when they were racing with the Listers that he would inherit the car from Julian Bailey and either be coming out from the pit stop with their arch rival right up his exhaust pipes, or having just gone past. And it seems to have been very much a factor of more of the GT races than not, I think, in the FIA series, that he's been doing last stint chasing as well. 2 years ago, of course, with Julian Bailey, Jamie was the FIA GT champion. And last year it was Christophe Bouchou in the Labre competition team that won the outright title. And again, tantalizingly close, but the gap is very stable. Pacini is able to keep him at arm's reach, and from 2.5 seconds back, Jamie, he's not going to have a chance unless Pacini is tripped up by somebody in the final 5 minutes.
I was just looking at the laps then, Pacini running it at 1 minute 28.1, and Jamie putting in a 27.6, so taking a little bit of time out of him then, but again, it's probably that the Ferrari was in slight traffic.
Well, 5 minutes and half a second a lap to close a 2.5 second gap. The arithmetic works as long as there's nobody else in the way, and that's not the case here at Oschersleben. See the battle here on. This is good stuff between Fabio Babini in the Belmondo car and Fabrizio Golin in the Car Sport Holland machine. And they're having a good tussle. And this is for... No, that's not actually a battle on the racetrack, because between them in the order is the Vincent Voss Viper. So they're in fact separated by a lap, although it looks quite exciting towards the end. God, Pacini really, he's really pushing very hard indeed. Now, I wonder what state his tyres are in compared to Jamie's, because he really, you can see the Ferrari moving around through all the corners. He's really charging on. And the next car he's got to pass, it's a Lister Storm, driven by Bobby Verden-Rowe. Now, I wonder how hard it's going to be to pass that Lister, even though the number 15 car is down in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th position. He might just not really see the Ferrari and, you know, not let him quite as quickly through as maybe he ought to. That's certainly an eventuality that I'm sure Jamie Campbell-Walter is not particularly blind to. But with only just about 3 minutes left, he'll have to hurry up and gain some advantage from it.
The trouble is, with such short time to go, the Ferrari has to feel fairly comfortable, to be honest, because not only has Jamie got to close up that gap but he's also got a pass, and as we know, this circuit is not the easiest places to overtake.
No, exactly right.
And you know, it's going to be very, very difficult, I think, for Jamie to be able to make a move on the Ferrari now.
Well, I think you're right. I think Jamie will have trouble catching him. Never mind, you know, if he's got 3 minutes, if he was right behind him now, he would have 2 laps to try and do it in. But I don't think he's got any more than that, and Bobby Verden-Rowe is going sufficiently quickly that it probably will be academic whether the Ferrari catches him or not. I'm not entirely sure that the Ferrari will need to pass Bobby Verden-Rowe in the remaining 2 minutes and 45 seconds. He's certainly getting no closer to the Lister. Jamie Campbell-Walter, well, he is a fraction closer to the tail of the race leader, but that fraction will not be enough, and I don't think that there will be a Lister in the way of the race leader unless Bobby backs off and really gets in the way. And do you know what? That's not really the way they run races at Lister. Well, this will certainly add to the penalty weight of the Ferrari for the next race, no question about that. The Bouchou car, the Labra Viper, will lose some of its 100 kilos, virtue of not finishing and scoring 0 points here. Jamie Campbell-Walter and Nicholas Springer look set for second place. They will go back up from 10 kilos to 50 kilos. If my remembrance of the way that the penalties are added is right, maybe they'll go up to 40 kilos. Final moments of agony for the BMS Scuderia Italia team there, as their car continues on its merry way. Will he have to do another lap? Jamie down the inside the Freisinger Porsche safely.
Trying hard.
Certainly is. P1 plus 2.2, and they reckon 1 lap to go. Well, it depends how quick that lap is as to whether they're right on the clock or not. It will be a very close run thing. 1.9 seconds, Pacini to Campbell-Walter. Now maybe Verden-Rowe's Lister Storm will become a factor, because the Ferrari is much closer to it. And even though Jamie, he doesn't pass, will it be enough just to hold him up from being able to run as quickly as he can?
It's possible, yeah. Just the turbulence from the air, from the Lister in front may just slightly slow Pacini's Ferrari down, but I don't believe that Bobby's going to get in the way of this fight. I think that as long as Pacini can keep up the pace of the Ferrari, I don't believe that Jamie's going to be close enough to get the win, but you never know.
You never know, that's absolutely true. We've seen some bizarre finishes to races like this. We've seen set-in-stone victories robbed from teams. Carsport Holland will feel particularly aggrieved of not winning Silverstone when the back end fell off the car when they were comfortably leading. But the BMS Scuderia Italia team are already on the pit wall in numbers, waiting for Andrea Pacini to bring the Ferrari home. And this will be another convincing win for the number 23 car. Well, it'll be another win, perhaps not the dominant win that they might have seen in a couple of other races. Barely a second ahead of Jamie Campbell-Walter, but it's enough. And they do take victory, and by only just over a second. Jamie Campbell-Walter was not giving that one up until he passed the checkered flag behind the Ferrari. He would not accept defeat. Well, now then, 14:59 and 28 seconds. It's that depends exactly what the clock was saying when the race started, but they've given them the checkered flag anyway. 15 seconds over the 3-hour mark. Pacini and Delatraz winning again for Ferrari. The Lister Storm in second place. Babini and Duez third, another good result for them. Voss and Rosenblad fourth. Gerlin and Capillari fifth for Carsport Holland. And the second Lister Storm in sixth place for Bobby Verden-Rowe and Paul Knapfield. In the second Belmondo car in seventh, ahead of our NGT winners, Toto Wolff and Philip Pater, ahead of Antonio Garcia and Horst Felbermeyer Jr. Well, let's catch up with our race winner under the tricolore. It is Andrea Pacini. He said the Vipers were very quick on the straights. They were very hard to pass. In the end, we had some problems with the tyres. Maybe we chose too soft rubber on the front end of the Ferrari, he's saying. So the Lister was closing the gap. After the pit stop, I had a tough battle with Babini. Passed him to take the lead. And then I managed just to hold on. And our NGT winner is Austrian Porsche driver Philip Pater.
It was quite perfect. We said, okay, last year I won 2 races, starting second in the second stint. So I said, okay, Toto, so you start this time, so maybe we are lucky and superstitious and we're going to win. He did a perfect job, keeping position, not losing too much time. And I was able to recover, make a lot of good laps and take the lead. And then just, you know, the last 14 laps, try to watch the fuel consumption, and it was a perfect race. I'm really happy for the team, especially for Pirelli. They gave us a perfect tire, and the Renault team did a perfect job also in the pit stops.
Well, the Auto Orlando team claimed their first victory of the season in the NGT class. Here's the points then. Ferrari team leading by 1 now from Springer and Campbell Walter. And then behind the Labra cars, a bunch all on 16 points. 7th equal duos Babini, Voss, Hazemans and Kumpen. Luca Capillari in 12th spot in the GT title race. In the teams, or the championship for the teams, it's Lister Storm racing by 1 from Labra. The BMS Scuderia Italia really only scoring with their 1 car. They are in 3rd spot though. In the NGT category, Ferrari drivers Montemini and Pescatori still living off the fat of their early season wins, and the fact that they and Ortelli did not score means Toto Wolff moves up into a much closer 3rd place in the championship. Ian Khan and Jürgen von Gartzen get points here to reverse their downward trend. The JMB Ferrari team still leading comfortably from Freisinger, Auto Orlando and Jürgen von Gartzen Racing. So then, next action from the LG Super Racing Weekends is Wednesday, this Wednesday at 5:30 British Eurosport. Set your videos if you won't be home from work in time. 18:30 Central European time. We'll be bringing you the highlights of all the races. If you missed the Formula Renaults, the touring cars, you can see those, and the GT race, as well as the Clios and the other support races. And the next LG Super Racing Weekend, we will be at Spa-Francorchamps, the first weekend in August for the Spa 24 hours, and the European Touring Car Championship will be in action then as well. So that looks like being an action-packed weekend. Join us for that. In the meanwhile, my thanks to Jamie Davis for helping us through an enjoyable and exciting weekend's action. People take the Formula Renault race. Until the next time we meet, from me, Martin Haven, it's goodbye for now. Bye-bye.
With LG Electronics, digitally yours. That was the